Welcome, GEMA members, and welcome to our next installment of GEMA Talks. We are here today with Jen Neal. Jen has had just such an interesting career in entertainment media, really prolific career. Most of that, a lot of that in the world of marketing, and you'll certainly learn much more about that today. In more recent years, she's become one of the leaders in the live event space in the media and entertainment world. You'll hear her talk a lot about that. And so really interested to talk to her about her career journey for sure. And then also, I think we'll have a really interesting discussion about just trends in the world of entertainment media and how they're affecting her day-to-day job and the pieces of the business that she works in. We'll also talk about her time at Georgetown, particularly as a student athlete. Jen was on the varsity basketball team that actually went to the Sweet 16 one year. So we'll have some good, rich discussion about that and what it was like being a student athlete at Georgetown. So Jen, I want to welcome you to GEMA Talks.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here and to have a great conversation with you.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to have you. I typically like to start these from the beginning. And I do think your upbringing and where you're from, and that a lot of that did inform sort of choices in your life and decisions you've made. So I'd love it if you wouldn't mind quickly talking about where you grew up, where you're from, and then how did that sort of pivot into going to Georgetown?
Sure. So I grew up in Iowa. A lot of people are surprised when they hear that, but I grew up in eastern Iowa. I'm one of 5 kids and was born into kind of a team situation from the start of the family. Right. And so grew up in Iowa in the Midwest, loved it. I had 3 older brothers, and so I ended up playing lots of sports when I was younger, and ended up playing basketball a lot when I was younger and on a lot of the teams. And that actually was one of the catalysts for me going to Georgetown, believe it or not. Years ago, when the NCAA rules were quite different, we're out in all of these tournaments. And I remember I was 11 or 12 years old at the moment. Colleges would go and watch, young kids play. And I remember my first college letter that I got was from Georgetown University, from one of the assistant coaches who was out, just watching, basketball in the gyms back then. Wow. And I remember thinking that summer, most of the other letters were form letters, and this was kind of a handwritten one on Georgetown's letterhead. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that would be so amazing, to go to Georgetown and play. And so that was in the back of my mind for a lot of formative years, young growing up. And I continued to do that. But as I started to think about where I wanted to go to college and to go to university, the things that were important to me of, yes, I wanted to, play basketball if that opportunity allowed me, to do it. But I also was really interested in the whole picture of a university, and Georgetown being in Washington, D.C. was such an incredible academic reputation, a Jesuit, community, being in the center of, Washington, D.C. with business and with politics, and being in the heartbeat of that was super, super interesting to me. And so the worlds aligned, and, long story short, after a number of different, choices along the way, I did end up at Georgetown, and I still have that letter, but it was just such an incredible experience to be at the university. But yeah, I grew up in Iowa in the Midwest, and made my way to Georgetown from there.
And you were in the business school.
Yes.
Right. So talk a little bit about what you were thinking about studying and what you ended up spending most of your time studying at Georgetown inside business.
Yeah, like many of the freshman year students, I went into actually the college my freshman year because I wasn't quite sure. I thought perhaps I wanted to be in the writing field, and so the college was great. But after my freshman year, I was introduced to a lot of different friends that were in the business school, and professors. And I always had a curiosity to understand, marketing and advertising, even at young ages, of how do brands get people or TV shows or content to care about them and engagement. And I liked the business side, the business mind of the creativity and that, as far as at that point in your life. Right. And so I did go into business school, and I ended up majoring in marketing, which was really great and fun for me. I initially thought that I would want to get into sports marketing. And so that's kind of where I started out my career. But I would say Georgetown University, the business school there, Rich, is just such, as most people know, have been there, and a lot of people in the GEMA, community, just such a rich place to discover yourself and to set, some great framing for life. And the diverse population of people and experiences and thinking and opportunities on the campus and the curriculum, really helped shape me and kind of my interest and passion. And I started doing internships in DC during college in the kind of the sports marketing realm as I was studying marketing.
So talk about the experience of being a student athlete, because it is such a unique experience at Georgetown. And also I'm always admire, student athletes, because your plates must be so unbelievably full. And how did you balance it all? What were the challenges? What were the rewards? What was it like playing on the basketball team and all of that?
Well, you don't sleep as much as everyone else, that I'll tell you.
I believe it.
But it is definitely, anyone who's been a Division I student athlete, first, like, I benefited so much from it. It's an awesome experience. When you first arrive, you already have an instant team, and an instant family kind of around you, and a like-mindedness of that. I would say being a student athlete, you have to figure out how to kind of manage your time in terms of how much are you going to appropriate toward, school and studying and figuring, that cadence out, along with training and practice and travel. And for us, the basketball season ran, pretty much through the calendar year. So within the first few weeks of being on campus, you're training and you're going multiple times a week. You're, working through Thanksgiving. You have a few days off at Christmas. You're on campus. You're traveling, and then a little bit at spring break. So it's the full season. But what's great about Georgetown, in my experience there, was that you can find ways to do both. And the community there, the athletic community there, the athletic department was, academics first, and studying, super important in those worlds. So I think you just learn to appropriate and balance your time in a really different way during those years. And for me, I loved both. I loved being able to compete in a Division I area with a teammate and a coaching structure and an athletic department that was very supportive. And I love the university, and I love the business school, and the people that you're meeting, and the curriculum and courses and global perspective. And so being a student athlete, you probably don't sleep or party quite as much during certain times of the year, but you make up for it later. But but it is the combination of just balancing time management and prioritizing things in a different way.
And what do you, I know it's somewhat of a trite question, but what did you really take from the experience of being a student athlete? What are some things you've taken with you from your life and career?
So I think, the work ethic is one. The other thing I think that, sports in general teaches you, for me, I had the opportunity to, be a team co-captain and a leader during those years. And I think from sports, I took the team aspect and wanting to always lead groups. I gravitated toward wanting to lead groups and teams of people toward a common goal and a mission, and completely respect that everyone brings something different to the table, and everyone has different skills, and figuring out how you get the most out of everyone working together, and setting the tone of like positive achievement, and we can do this, and an optimistic perspective. And then on the flip side of that, you're not always going to win all of them. You're not always going to have all these successes as much as you want to. And we had some good years and some good teams, but it truly was also, when you don't, you got to pick yourself up the next day. You have to watch some game tape. You have to understand how you made mistakes. And then you further on. And so it teaches you resilience in a lot of ways of, and that, I think that's definitely helped me in business. We're not in any smooth sailing waters, in the media landscape and worlds that we're in. And so, I use the leadership, the collaboration, making sure that you're tapping into everyone's expertise, and you can do it, but like, you have to take risks. You're not going to win them all, and you just have to have resiliency to keep pushing forward and putting in the time and effort and work to do it.
Good, thank you. moving on to the professional world, you've now been in the NBCUniversal family for, I think, over 10 years now.
Yeah, almost, yeah, just a 10. Yep.
Yeah, and spent a lot of those, I know, at E and beyond. So it'd be great to hear sort of how you got to where you are today. I know you mentioned sports marketing.
Yeah.
Is that an area that you started out in after college, and how did you begin it all?
Yeah, so I did start out in sports marketing after college. I had done some internships when I was in DC in the area, and a lot of those in the tennis world and Nuveen and the senior tours, and Advantage International was a company then and had a lot of sports in DC at the time.
Yeah.
And so there were a number of people and offshoots of that program where I had great experiences with. But I started working in sports marketing and promotion in my early years, and was able to work in a promotions entity for the Atlanta Olympics, the USTA, Major League Soccer. And I had an opportunity early in my career to work for the National Basketball Association, which was incredible. I was a female, basketball player, as you've referenced, and I was able to work on the WNBA just shortly after it launched and be a part of that, of building that in the NBA. And so I loved my experiences there. The leadership in the NBA and Adam Silver was then is incredible. And I had a great experience at the NBA and was there for a number of years. And Rich, then I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit broader than just the sport of basketball and engaging with, different brands. Right. I was in the marketing area that was producing content and campaigns in the marketing partnerships area at the NBA. And when I decided to expand and take on a different role, I went into the Omnicom family, which was in New York. I was based in New York at the time, and worked
just to explain to everyone that they're one of the big ad agencies, right? Holding companies.
Yes, exactly. They're one of the biggest holding companies during that time. And so I worked on advertising strategy and creative development, overseeing global businesses for a few years. With athletic brands and lifestyle brands. So I kind of segued that sports marketing into lifestyle and entertainment brands on that side of the business. And then I took a role within one of the media holding companies within Omnicom Universal at PhD, and was able to, this is at the time when media probably wasn't super exciting for people. It was like buying TV ads, but as the time was just starting to change and innovation was starting to happen in how you engage with audiences and what platforms, and all new technology was breaking out. And it was super intriguing to me.
Yeah.
So I went there to run the Discovery Channel business and all the entertainment practices. So that's where my love of television kept enhancing, and the lifestyle brands. So Discovery and HBO and BBC America and a number of those brands. And so that was some of the early transition, but I was on kind of the marketing and the media side of it, but understanding all of the content creation. And I always have paid attention to how are consumers and brands engaging with content. And I really loved the creative process of developing that. And I really liked, the business side of both of those. And then, fast forward to E in the last 10 years in NBCUniversal, where I am now. I originally joined E heading up marketing, and have transitioned to overseeing, the ENews content creation, global business, as well as the live events business of producing all the live events for the red carpets and a number of things. I did that for the latter part. And then recently, in the last year, through company transition, I'm now heading up and helping to run all of the live events and special businesses for NBCUniversal, which is extraordinary. There are 8 platforms to program for now across all.
Yeah, that's amazing. Talk about what the mandate was when you got to E.
Yeah, so when I first joined E, we were going through an evolution, and the brief from management at the time was we need to create a different sort of mission for E, and start changing the brand positioning, the approach, the tone, the manner, the feel, the look, to be more contemporary and to be more modern in terms of the approach. And so we went through a whole brand assessment strategy, and determined we needed to excite and entertain the pop culture fans of all of us through the programming in our connective tissue. E has, Live from the Red Carpet, has ENews, many reality shows and programming during the time that were terrific. And so it was about how do you take what's best of that and have a cohesive strategy, modernize it, develop different programming that is more attractive to women during that time, and also understand how to connect with audiences in a digital strategy.
Right, because I imagine during that time, as some of our viewers may know and some may not, the cable network business in the last 10 years is now increasingly challenged. So, and I'm sure the digital part of your business became more prominent in social media and the like.
Yes. So during that time, you're exactly right, Rich. Through the years, as a marketer, you were looking at all of the different places to engage with audiences. The cable landscape and the media landscape in general have completely dramatically changed. I still remember evaluating still even MySpace at the time. And then you're talking about, Facebook and MySpace, and now, it's Snap and it's TikTok and it's Instagram and it's all of those. So in real time, we had to determine quickly as an ENews publishing entity and brand, as well as, a marketer, as I was sitting in that role, how to connect and let people know about the shows we're producing and the brands and the content we're covering in bespoke ways on the platforms relevant for them. So a television ad is going to be one execution of creative and how you engage. But when you're looking at Twitter versus Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, we had to be really precise about how and where we show up and what messaging. And, a Snap ad doesn't look the same as TikTok and shouldn't look the same as Instagram. And that's a different strategy than Twitter. And so during those years, I really understood the messaging required to engage with audiences across all platforms while having a brand still stay consistent. Because you can't you can't be all over the map either. You have to be true to who you are. So those days, it was heavy transition through those worlds. And I think what kept me up at night during those times, how do you actually produce enough content to be feeding the beast of everyone who's on their devices all the time? Because the consumer expectations were dramatically changing and upgrading every day.
Yeah.
And still are, by the way, and still are.
Still are, yeah, as we speak. What would you point to, as you think back now, it's been 10 years, what were some of your biggest accomplishments or things you're most proud of in terms of all the work you've done specifically?
So 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, I transitioned to running and producing and leading the group and team that does all of the live events. At E, it was the time. Now I do it all across NBCUniversal. And at the time, we wanted to acquire our own bespoke award show. And at the time, the CEO of Comcast Universal would say, think about being an owner, not a renter. If there's ever IP out there to actually own and make something of, it's a smart business, right? And so we had the opportunity to go out and acquire the People's Choice Awards IP that had some brand value. And we tore it down to the studs a bit and just reimagined that in the world in a different vision, from categories to the mission statement, to the look and feel, to the vibe. And we had a brand who is programming to audiences and talking about pop culture and TV and entertainment 24/7. Mm-hmm. So it was setting the mission, redefining that whole award show experience using the 360 nature of the business and publishing arm of ENews to kind of create that. And it was, successful in the first iteration. So for me, I loved it because it was from start to finish creation of a product in and of itself, and all facets of all creative and all of the planning and the data and the business side of it. So it was both left and right brain, but heavily creatively focused.
Yeah, that's great. So as you mentioned, you've now taken on this new role. And when you explained it to me, I was like, wow, that's a really fun, daunting, but really fun job. Can you just for our audience, explain a little bit more the different platforms and what exactly you're doing, and then give some examples of some of the events that you've worked on already and maybe some that are happening that have been announced?
Great. Yep. So I think a differentiator for the NBCUniversal family is the portfolio, is stronger than the sum of its parts. So In the world of the NBCUniversal family, I report into Susan Rovner, and I head up all live events and special content strategy, creative development, and operations for everything that is live event or special. I still oversee ENews, but everything that's live event and special across NBC, our cable platforms, which are E, Bravo, Oxygen, and USA, and our streaming service Peacock. So my remit is so incredibly fun and dynamic and exciting. And I think I have one of the best roles because I'm able to think about what creatively is going to impact audiences and what people want to be discovering for live and specials across all platforms. And so it really allows us to hear and ideate and come up with amazing ideas, and then finding the right home for them. So it's not just one brief for those. So with 8 platforms, there's kind of limitless opportunities in terms of where you can find homes, and then how you can use the ecosystem to benefit that in unique ways. So I think one of the best examples for the company, this is not in my world, but I'll talk about that as the company, and then my world is the Olympics that just happened, right? The little thing called the Olympics.
Yeah.
But if you look at our system and all of the platforms, you are seeing Olympic coverage across all of those in terms of where that is. And we're able to kind of cross-pollinate that. The types of projects that I work on that are great and fun are, everything from the Billboard Music Awards to the Thanksgiving Day Parade, to the tree lighting, to holiday specials. We've announced we are doing Annie as a live musical this year, which we're thrilled about and so excited.
Yeah.
We just wrapped up in June a Miley Cyrus Pride special for Peacock. And then in the next 3 weeks on our cable portfolios, we have New York Fashion Week coverage, we have Met Gala red carpets, we have Emmy red carpets. So, and that's not just linear programming, it's 360 approaches and figuring out how we create content and compelling shows, but also content for all the platforms so that works, and how we move that promotion across all. So it's super dynamic. It's a ton going on, but I have a great team, and the company is really set up in a nice way to use the portfolio and the sum of all of its parts to help these great pieces of content and the quality content to get that out there.
Yeah. I want to shift now a little bit to you yourself in terms of your, love to get some thoughts from you on your management style, your leadership style, some of the traits you live by in working in entertainment and media and working in corporate America. Talk a little bit about sort of your leadership style and how would you describe it?
Yeah, so I like I've always enjoyed leading groups of team and people. As I've said, it probably came through kind of some of the sports experience early on.
Yeah.
That and a little
By the
bit
way, I don't think you mentioned it, but you were captain for, was it 2 years, right?
I was captain my senior year. Yeah,
Captain your senior year. Yeah, right.
At
Which is great.
Georgetown, which was awesome.
Great.
Yeah. And had many different, captain roles, before college. But the point of that is like my leadership style is I like leading groups and teams of people who collaborate and have a sharp focus and vision to want to win, right? So we all want to win. But my leadership style, I like to set the vision of what we're trying to accomplish and make sure everyone's clear about that. And we kind of march forward to do that. I tend to think I lead by putting in the vision at the top and the effort and time, but I'm a really big fan of hiring the best people around you and letting them do what they do best, and being there to course correct along the way if need be, but to encourage and be optimistic and help people take chances and innovate and think about things differently within those realms. So I do think that, that's something I do take seriously. I also don't think you have to be a jerk to get things done. And I think that there's a way that you can really motivate people and get them on board through doing it, by being kind, but also setting a specific direction of where people go. So I don't think people respond great to mean leadership, right? And so you do have to like motivate the troops. And I've kind of always looked at it as more of a coach.
Yeah, good. And then how about in terms of your, I used to use the word superpower. If I ask people at NBCUniversal, what makes Jen so special, and what is her superpower? What do you think are some of the things that, you're good at that have made you a successful executive?
Yeah, I'm not afraid of running toward fires and tough challenges or taking on new things. So I think I always gravitate toward how do we invent or think about things strategically or do things in a new way. So that's always been super exciting and fun for me. We touched on the leadership. I love to be on new territory and try to do things that are innovative. And I also like to set bars to achieve specific goals and topics with the team. But I would say my leadership, my creativity and innovation, and I do like. As much as I'm very creatively led, I also understand the business side of things.
Yeah.
So it is a balance and a gut check that I think helps me personally and has through the years.
Yeah, you mentioned that sort of left brain, right brain,
Yeah.
which I think not everyone has that. So it's I think it is a key differentiator for you.
I've just liked doing both, and I've had experiences, and I've been given a lot of opportunities, right, from people, my bosses, the company, and many people within NBCUniversal in the last 10 years and other roles and other jobs where they've given me opportunities to stretch and to try out that, creative side, the business side. And I think that's helpful when you have people who believe in you and companies who will support and help you, push into that. Sometimes people get pigeonholed or they're told they're one thing versus the other, but like we really don't know until you have the chance to try stuff, right? For people.
Right,
So
right.
I always encourage people to try both. And you don't have to just be one or the other, in my opinion.
Yeah, good. You mentioned not being afraid to go towards challenges and not being fearing that. So, let's talk about the media and entertainment industry, because our industry is going through, tectonic plate change type situations. And, technology has emerged in a way where it has dramatically changed, obviously, viewing habits, and, streaming has obviously become, the main way people are watching, and social media, the emergence of that explosion of social media has played a big role too. So given all of that, why don't you talk about some of the, the 2 or 3 trends that you've seen in the industry that, you've personally experienced, and what that means, what's the implications of those trends?
I think anyone who says they have the answer to everything that's happening is wrong or is lying, I would say, because nobody knows that. But I think there are a couple different trends that are happening right now. You're seeing, and Rich, you're seeing this in the entertainment space: mergers, acquisitions, power bases. Are you big enough? Is scale the only way to win? Right. So you're starting to see that as a macro industry trend. And so that is happening. I don't think TV or cable or any of things are dead. I think there also is, the emergence of all the streamers, and there's a ton of great content out there for people to find. The other is, how are you using your assets in the right way to advantage yourself? And whether that's cross-platform pollination, different windowing strategies, thinking about the business differently. So that's one trend we're seeing. The other that I'm seeing, it's just, where are people wanting to consume content, right? And does it matter what distribution channel that falls on? And I think there's a lot of questions on what will net out with that. But I think the big players right now in streaming are competing for more scale. There's a lot that's happening in that space. But I also don't think TV and cable are dead. It's how you're using and distributing content across your ecosystems through some of that scale. And then the social media world is a whole different thing. You have to stay on top of everything that's happening with the platforms. TikTok's emerging. Where it used to be Musical.ly. We've had I've had my eyes on understanding who that is, and will it really be a thing when it was Musical.ly a few years ago. And you see how a lot of these social platforms evolve in a very, quick period of time. Between Snap, Instagram, Facebook, all of those, there's so many places to engage with audiences in that world.
to your point about, we have all these platforms and we can serve them all in different ways. I'd imagine one of the most challenging parts of your job is figuring out what to put on what platform, right? So you mentioned the Miley Cyrus concert. I guess arguably that could have been on NBC, that could have been on, E or Bravo or Peacock is where it ended up. How do you even start thinking about what filters you use for your different platforms? What is the process?
So first, when I'm evaluating, when my team looks at ideas, we say we want the best ideas. We have to love the idea. We have to think it's incredible, and not even think about it from a platform agnostic perspective at that moment in time. If we love something, we want to figure out where to put it. And so with Miley, we had done an overall deal with Miley Cyrus, and we knew that Pride Month is important to NBCUniversal and Peacock, and also super important to Miley. And so through one of the first projects we worked with her on, we knew that we wanted to bring this unique special to life in an awesome way. And we thought the Peacock was a great, perfect place to debut it because there was so much happening around the Pride Month on Peacock. And it felt like it needed a place to be that was more than just one night, so that people could come in and enjoy it. And it was more of a celebration during the month of that time. So that was a decision. But Rich, you're right. Where we put content are constant conversations with management teams and programmers or scheduling. I think that for us, there are opportunities for us to do both. I mean, just as an example outside of my world, but if you're familiar with Below Deck Mediterranean, that's a Bravo show. It debuted on Peacock before it went to Bravo, right? So it's like there are audiences that are unique and interesting, and we knew it appealed to all demos, not just a specific one. So there are a lot of different.
And then even like People's Choice Awards, I think, is going to be on NBC and E simultaneously. Correct?
Yes. Yep. We're for the first time, based on building that, that property, it will be on E and NBC at the same time. So there are ways where we'll debut things on one platform and then migrate those to the next. So it's truly kind of windowing strategies, but also you look at where your audiences are. And sometimes the shows will appeal to all, and other times they'll feel more perfect to just one platform.
Yeah, good. How about an asset in a brand like ENews? How has that been affected by the streaming world? I assume it used to be all about linear back in the day. So how have you, what's the evolution been of ENews in terms of how you, create that product?
Yeah. So the ENews brand and franchise, I would say, was one of the first actually to get into the digital space and to start testing out a number of years ago. And so that was a benefit of being in the first mover space there and establishing dialogue with audiences and social media platforms. In the past years, we've really set a huge intention and strategy to engage across all platforms with ENews content. And this is fun content, right? It's escapism, it's talking about pop culture and fashion and celebrity. And it is more snackable and more shorter form content that's out there that people can get their, conversational currency hit, in terms of what's happening in the day. Yeah. And so for us, we need to make sure that we are producing interesting content that's clever and engaging, is giving people the conversational currency they need through social, platforms and communication, while tying back to, the main shows of ENews. But we have a very robust team that works through platform strategies for owned and operated, and also for Instagram, huge Instagram following, Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok, all of Twitter, all of those areas. And we've pivoted more to more of a video first, more of video strategy than just editorial. And so I think one of the trends you're starting to see with online entertainment or news organizations is that video content is winning the game in the digital and social space. And so the great part about digital too, Rich, this is it doesn't have to be perfect. You can test and learn. You have to iterate and you have to try. And once, you can optimize and learn in real time, whether that's a show or a video series or quick hits or editorial content. There's so many dynamic data points where you can learn so much about your audience and retarget and communicate that in a more personalized way. So that's an area of the business that is super fascinating and fun. And to your point, has shifted dramatically in the past 6 months, 12 months, past years.
Mm. What's the hardest part of the job today?
I think it's prioritization, of
Mhm.
like what's really important. When I have my, team meetings, there are so many things you need to be doing in a day that the prioritization is super important about what you afford your time to. But for that's a little bit more for ENews. Um, but the creative process and creative development and spending the right time to make sure that you have the best ideas and the best creative talent and the best writers and directors that are out there is the most invigorating part for me in live, and like
Yeah.
reimagining what does live mean, outside of just award shows. It's congregations of fandom, in those areas, and how do you ideate and think about things in a new and fresh way,
Yeah.
not just for linear, but across all platforms. So that's also the complexities of understanding how to produce for that. But it's also the most fun. The creative, the creative ideation and that vision and thinking about it holistically is super fun.
You must too. I'm sure one of the challenges is you probably get so many ideas pitched to you and you're probably
Yes.
like, wow, I love that one. I love that one. I love that one. But you can't do them all,
Yeah.
And so how do I prioritize which ones do I ultimately select? And then how do we make sure we execute them, beautifully? It's that, that's,
Yeah.
again, it's the beauty is you have amazing ideas coming your way because you have such an incredible platform and you have
Yeah.
incredible resources, but also the prioritization of that can be hard.
Yeah. I mean, ideas that are great, that have kind of quality, vision, passion, like you can still tell like what great ideas you can still, we get pitched tons of great ideas every day. And if they, if they have quality, if they have vision, if there's like real passion for the project and people around, that has been a truism for a lot of time. The storytelling in that is so critical and important.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is hard. There are tons of great ideas being pitched, and there are times you have to be ruthless, and
Mhm.
it's an art and science blend. You're never
Yeah.
going to have a research group tell you what's going to work or not. So you have to have the courage, if you really, really believe in something, to go for it, and to really believe in that creative process and your partners you're working with. I mean, I have such a great opportunity to work with great creative producers and people who are ideating and doing amazing work on the shows. And so that helps you along the way. But yeah, there's not a shortage of that.
I think it's a great point about the instincts and the gut, because you're right. Two things can happen. One, you're never going to get a research team to tell you what to do, but also, as you know, too, you could get research back on something that says it's not going to be great, but in your heart, you just believe it'll work. And we've heard, the litany of shows in history that got bad research score. Seinfeld was one of the lowest rated, surveyed, polled shows ever, right? So I think that's a piece of your job too that I applaud you for, because it takes courage, especially in the media world where it is all, you're putting yourself out there. If you go create some massive event and it's going to be blasted everywhere and then it fails, that's a tough pill to swallow. So you're taking some real chances and taking some real risks.
Yeah.
And
You can't be
people
afraid.
forget that sometimes, that piece of it.
I think that's a great point. You can't be afraid to take the risks, and we do them within, a calculation of like
Sure, of course.
business and realistic.
Of
But when
course.
you talk about live, even different than anything else, like, we have a saying like you're only live once, for a good way, right? But it can cut both ways. Like you have to have the absolute belief and commitment to like spontaneity, and anything can happen. And you go in with a roadmap of preparation and how you see the vision happening. But the awesome thing about live is like things unfold and spontaneity happens, and you course correct and you change and you have to pivot. And that creates some magic too. So yeah, you can't be afraid in those worlds, particularly if you're live. But look, I have a great team. We embrace it and we try. And it doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. Trust me. But you have to not be afraid of that, and iterate and learn from that.
Yeah. Just to conclude, I'd love to talk about your thoughts on advice for young people who want to break into entertainment, or people looking to, expand or advance their career. What are some of the, 2 to 3 pieces of advice you'd like to dispense of?
Yeah. So if you get that first opportunity, maximize it and do more than they even ask you to do, right? And just be super curious about it.
Mhm.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. And don't be afraid that you may not know something or you may not understand it. So use your curiosity to guide you to be confident, to ask those questions and do that.
Yeah.
Um, and I've said, the best ways that you can learn are kind of to run toward the fires. It's where it's in the heat of it and you're going to experience the highest threshold of learning quickly, in the complexity of certain things, which are great.
Yep.
And those are two areas where I would say, but follow your passion and just have curiosity and love what you do. And it takes some resilience and grit when you're first starting out in entertainment. But if you really love it and have a lot of curiosity and passion, stick to that. There's tons of opportunities. And by the way, your entertainment is so broad that you can start in one area and navigate to others. So just take the opportunities to learn, even if it's not in the exact area you think you're going to get in right away.
Good. What do you like? What do you look for? You mentioned a couple here, but other things. What do you look for when you're hiring folks? Like, what are the kinds of things you want to see from people when you're doing your hiring?
Passion about the business, the subject matter, the content, the creative process, the business. That's super important to me. The commitment and hardworking element of it is and how they interact and if they can collaborate and work together and will be a good teammate. But truly the passion in the business and how they demonstrate that is super important early on. And I would say look at that from assistant candidates to do they have passion to want to learn and do the smallest things to is somebody diving into the subject matter and understanding the genre of shows or understanding the biggest pieces of innovation and technology we can be doing for a live event or on ENews, what are new platforms or what's working, the best. So that curiosity and passion in the creative side of the world, I think is super, super important.
Yeah.
And having fun. I mean, the thing that we also have to remember and understand is working entertainment is fun.
Yeah.
And you have to, complex as the industry and business can be, you have to be doing something with people, having fun and having, joy in that. So don't forget that piece of it. Someone who's smiling or positive often, right, that you're working with is those things still make a difference. Those things still make a difference. And,
it's true. And it's in our industry, and this well, it can be easy to get jaded quickly. And, that first time you walk onto a studio lot, you have that, that feeling you get, right? And then, 15, 20 years later, 25 years later, you're on that lot every day. And you
don't even notice.
You don't even notice. And, Tom Hanks walks by and you're like, oh yeah, there's Tom Hanks, and you do take it for granted. And you're right. I think we all have to remember we work in one of the most exciting, fascinating, dynamic industries you could possibly work in. And so sometimes it's hard to rise above and remember that because you're so deep into the work. And sometimes it is complicated, challenging work. And then the passion point too, I'm glad you brought it up because as you know, there's so much competition for these jobs, right? If you're interviewing for a vice president of your team, you're going to get incredible resumes of people with amazing backgrounds. And it's things like the passion or that collaborative spirit. Those are some of the more intangible variables that can really matter.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you want people you want to win with together, right? That are going to help you get there. But yeah, it is fun. We are lucky.
Yeah, good. Well, I like leaving on a good, positive, healthy note there. Jen, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time and talking through your journey, and obviously love talking about the Georgetown part, of course, too. And I really appreciate it. And good luck with this exciting new role. We'll be watching Annie live and all your award shows, and all the best with all of this.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Okay, Jen, we'll see you soon.